So yesterday we learned how to convert decimals to percents and percents to decimals. Today we're going to be looking at converting fractions to percent. So your objective for today is you will be able to convert fractions to percent and percent to fractions. So when it comes to converting fractions to percent, there's two steps you have to follow. The first step is we're going to have to convert the fraction to a decimal. So in the first example, we've got 3/4. So we remember when we're converting a fraction to a decimal, 3/4. Well, 3/4 we know is going to be 75/100, right? Because 3/4 is 3/4, and we know 3/4 is going to be 75 cents. So then after we get 75/100, we can then convert that decimal to a percent. So now we know 0.75 is going to be just 75%. Because remember, when we're converting decimals to percent, we can just move that decimal 2 places to the right. So once we do that, we have 75 as a whole number, and then we just put the percent at the end. So 3/4 is going to be 75%. For our second example, we have 2/3. So 2/3, we're going to have to divide because that is not one of those fractions that we just know, for example with money, with 3/4. So I'm just going to divide this one. So remember, top in, bottom out. Two is in, 3 is out. 3 goes into 2 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. So then we add our decimal and add our 0. Bring down that 0. 3 goes into 26 times. 6 times 3 is 18. And 2. I'm going to bring down another 0. And this is going to be one of those things that's going to be a repeating decimal because we're just going to keep getting 6 times 3 is 18. 20 minus 18 is 2. And then we're just going to keep getting 20. So in this case, it's going to be 6, repeating decimal. So I can write it as 0.6 with a line on top of it, because we know it's going to be 0.666666 forever. So then what we do next is we would just move our decimal 2 places to the right, and then we can write it as 66.66, and then just keep writing our 6's. And then what I can do, instead of writing that 6 forever, is I can just round up, because we've got something that's greater than a 5 in the thousands place. So looking at our hundreds place, we know we can round it up because it's greater than 5. So then our answer for this one would be 66.67%. So I wanted to show you guys that one in case you do have a problem with a repeating decimal, what you would do for that one. And I also wanted you guys to practice using the method of moving that decimal to the right so that you're not always just in the habit of dropping that 0 and just writing down that number, because a lot of times you are going to have to just move that decimal 2 places for the right and use that Dr. Pepper method. And remember, what we're really doing when we're doing that Dr. Pepper method of moving it 2 places to the right is we are multiplying by 100. So remember, 75/100 times 100 would also give you, that's 75. Same thing for the other side, the 2/3. It's just 67/100 times 100. It's going to give you this value. So remember, when you're explaining how you convert these, remember what moving that decimal really means. So what we're really doing is when we're moving it to the right, we're multiplying by 100. So now we're going to talk a little bit about doing it the other way. So when we're converting the percent to a fraction, we have to convert that percent to a decimal. So we're always going to involve that decimal in the middle. That's our middle step. So for example, 40% we know is going to be 40 hundredths, because if we start with 40 and then we're moving, the decimal is going to be here, and then we're moving that decimal to the left this time. So we know it's going to be 40. And what we're doing is when we're going to the left, instead of multiplying, we're dividing. So now we're dividing by 100. And when we do that, we get 40 hundredths. So when we convert that decimal, now we have to take that decimal and change it to a fraction. So we know 40 hundredths is just 40 out of 100. So last step would be to simplify. So if I divide it, the top and bottom by 10, I'm going to get 4 tenths. And then since they're still both even, I can further simplify by 2 over 2. And when I do that, I get 2/5 as my answer. So then for my next example, I've got 65%. So same thing, I've got 65. And when I move that decimal to the left, I end up at 65 hundredths. So I divided that by 100, and I get 65 hundredths. So I know 65 hundredths is going to be 65 over 100. And since my two numbers end in either a 5 or a 0, I know I can divide that by 5, the top and bottom. And I know 65 divided by 5 is going to be 13. And 100 divided by 5 is going to be 20. So then my answer at the end would be 13/20. So if you made it this far into the video, congratulations, because on one of the questions for today, I'm giving you guys a free point as a thank you for watching these videos. So if you go to question 6 on the test after you finish this video, you're going to select choice B. So yay, you get free points. You know you're going to have